Hey everyone, it's Christina with My Confection Obsession, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make an Easter drip cake using homemade chocolate ganache. So drip cakes are everywhere and they're actually really easy to make at home. So I'm going to show you a technique that you guys can use, and we're going to be using this for our Easter cake, but you can definitely use this for any drip cake that you want to create. So what I have in front of me are just two ingredients. So I have semi-sweet chocolate chips as well as heavy cream. So the ratio for semi-sweet chocolate ganache is actually a 1-to-1 ratio. So I have 1 cup of chocolate chips and 1 cup of heavy cream. If you use a different type of chocolate, for example white, the ratio is different, so just keep that in mind. So all we're gonna do to start this is we're gonna heat our heavy cream in the microwave for about 1 minute. We don't want it to boil, but we do want it hot. So cream in the microwave for 1 minute. So after we microwave our heavy cream, we're just gonna pour it over our chocolate chips. And we're gonna let this sit for maybe 1 or 2 minutes just so the chocolate can start to melt before we stir it. So after this is set for a couple minutes, we're just gonna start to stir it. And at first it's gonna seem like it's not really melting, but it definitely is. So you're just gonna keep stirring. So you wanna get this chocolate really smooth, it's almost there. And something I should mention is I am using semi-sweet chocolate chips, but you can use, if you wanted to use like baker's chocolate, you could also do that. I just feel like the chocolate chips are easier because they're already cut up in small little pieces, so they melt really fast. So now that I have my chocolate nice and smooth, I am going to actually have to let this come to room temperature, because as you can see, this ganache is still really runny, and if we put it on the cake, it will just run right off of it. So you can let it sit on the counter for half hour, 45 minutes. You can pop it in the fridge for 15 or so. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this come to room temperature. And another thing that we do want to make sure of is our cake, before we put our chocolate drip on, needs to be very cold. So you can do that by putting this in the fridge for at least 4 hours or overnight. You can also put your cake in the freezer for about an hour ahead of time. So just make sure your cake is really cold and your ganache is room temperature. All right, so our ganache has come to room temperature, and you can see that it has thickened up a little bit. What I did is I actually just put it in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes to speed up the process. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna put my ganache into a piping bag to help control the drips when I start to put them on the cake. So as you can see, I have this cake here for Easter. And what I did is I created a pastel ombre or watercolor technique. If you want to see an in-depth tutorial on how to do the ombre technique or the watercolor technique, go ahead and click the link above, and it will also be in the show notes. So as I mentioned, this cake is really cold, and what that's going to do is it's going to help slow the dripping. So I'm going to just put some of this ganache in the piping bag. To use a chocolate for this because I thought the contrast would look really nice against the pastel colors. So what I'm going to do is I did snip off the end of the piping bag, and I'm going to go around the cake and add my drips. So what you can do with your drip cakes, if you see a space where you actually want to add a drip, you just can go back in and add that in. So however you like it to look. So after I add my drip to the sides, I am going to actually put this all over the top, and I'm just gonna carefully pour and spread. So after I have finished covering my cake with the ganache, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of Easter candy around it to really add that Easter touch. So these are just the Cadbury chocolate eggs. So I'm going to start adding a ring around here, and I might go all the way across, I'm not sure yet. All right, so my drip cake is done, and I think it turned out really nicely, and I could definitely see using this technique on just tons of different types of cakes. If you do have leftover ganache, one thing you're gonna wanna note is you can save this. Just put this into a glass bowl and cover it, and you can keep it in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. When you are ready to reuse it, you're actually just gonna put it in the microwave for 45 seconds, and the same thing, you just bring it to room temperature and then you can use it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, go ahead and give this episode a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And of course, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter.